matter of fact, 80% of drivers in America believe that they are above average. A recent Allstate study actually showed that 64% of Americans think that they are excellent drivers. However, our actions don't match our mentality. The facts of the matter is, and the statistics show, that 90% of us suck at driving. We do. We suck at it. So how do we get this discrepancy between how we think we are and how we actually are? Well, it starts a long time ago. If you go back to 1986, in the mid-'80s, we were in the top 3 countries in the world for safe driving. Fast forward to 2013, and the same study ranked us 42 out of 46 measured countries. Pretty bad. Now, while this might be a worst-case scenario study, pretty much every study shows us going on a downward slope. Most of them keeping us well out of the top 10. So how does this happen? What changed in 30 years? What have we done differently that we used to be so great and now we're down towards the bottom? Well, it's actually a complex question. And that comes with a very complex answer. To start off with, our roads today are not what they used to be. You know, the population on the road is much more dense than it was 30 years ago. So traffic has gotten much more thick. With that, most people feel like they're in a rush. So you have a bunch of frustrated drivers out there. Many of those drivers are distracted. And pretty much all of them are looking out for themselves and themselves only. So, said another way, this is a recipe for chaos. It's a battle zone out there, basically. I come from a long history in the motorsports industry, doing a lot of race driving, a lot of training of all types of driving, and I will tell you this. I feel 100 times safer on any racetrack, on any day with anyone than I do on any public street. And that's a pretty sad state of affairs. So that's the first part. The second part of what's changed is our education system. Driver's education in this country is something of an oxymoron. Now, that's not to slam on all the driver educators out there, because most of them are doing the very best they can with what they have, and it ain't much. They don't have the resources that they need. There's always going to be bad apples in every industry, and yes, there are some. I'm the CEO of an organization, a nonprofit called Teen Driving Solutions. We take a family approach to teaching teens and their families how to be smart, safe, and responsible drivers. You will not believe the stories that I hear about some of those bad apples. A driving educator who sits on his seatbelt, not in it, and tells his student, I don't believe in seatbelts. Driver's educators who train their students how to set their mirrors and their seat improperly, usually because they don't know any better. But for the most part, they're doing the very best they can with what little they have, and they don't have enough. Driver's education has been ripped out of the public schools, handed off to private industry, where there are for-profit companies that are running it that are much more interested in a revenue stream than they are the quality of service they provide. The requirements to get your license have been lowered so low that it is way too easy to get a license in this country. Our government doesn't take driving as seriously as they should. So the education system has been neutered, it's been watered down, and it's been demoralized to the point that it is failing our teens. It's not fair what we are doing to our teens. We are throwing our teens out in that chaos of frustrated, distracted drivers who are looking out for themselves and themselves only, with very little education, very little training, and very little experience. And that is simply unfair. They deserve better. The results of what we've created there is the statistic that driving is the #1 cause of death for teens in this country. And it has been for quite some time. So there are a lot of families, roughly 6,000 per year, that have a policeman show up at their door at some time of the night. They get that call. That dreaded call that no one wants to get. And this is the statistic that we've created. Well, there's enough organizations like Teen Driving Solutions, myself, individually, lots of other people that we've pushed our government to do better. Let's raise the bar. Let's raise the standard. Let's make it more challenging to get your license. And the government said, okay, they got tired of us belly aching. We'll do something about it. And of course, what they did was what they do best, a study. Well, the study's results were published in April of 2012 by NHTSA. And realizing you can't really read that, I'll paraphrase the first two sentences of the conclusion for you without going into the gory detail. It's pretty scary. Sentence number 1 basically says, we feel that the driver's education curriculum is doing a sufficient job of teaching students how to pass the licensing exam. They are teaching them to pass the test. We are not teaching people how to drive anymore. We're teaching them how to pass the test. That's not the scary sentence. The really scary sentence is the next one. That basically says it is unreasonable to expect this curriculum to reduce the number of teen crashes or fatalities, as that is beyond the scope of the program. Ladies and gentlemen, our government doesn't give a crap about your teen safety. They just want to generate more tax-paying, revenue-generating citizens, put them on our roads where they can get mobile and go shop so that they can fund Club Fed. That is what they care about. They place the responsibility of teaching teens how to drive safely and responsibly squarely on the parents' shoulders, and the parents, we've already established, came from a driver's education system that wasn't working, and they're out there with bad habits, being frustrated, distracted, and looking out for themselves only. Not necessarily modeling the best behavior, much less not being a trained driver educator. Another part that has led us down this primrose path is we in this country tend to see driving as downtime. What can I get done between point A and point B? Because, hey, I'm just driving, right? Well, that's how a lot of people see it. We see it as non-productive time. What else can I do? This is why you see people texting, using their phone, reading a book, reading the paper sprawled out across the dash and the steering wheel, writing a book, changing clothes while they're driving. All kinds of stuff is going on in our cars while we're driving, except paying attention to driving. I once saw a woman, I actually encountered her twice on 2 different interstates in the same trip, about an hour apart. And the first time I encountered her, I'm on the interstate, speed limit's 70, I'm doing about 72 if I'm honest. She comes blowing by me in the left lane, and she is doing about 15 to 20 miles per hour over the speed limit. She doesn't slow down until traffic impedes her progress. Then she starts weaving in and out. That's the only time she got out of the left lane, incidentally. And then all of a sudden, for no apparent reason, she just started slowing down and started driving extremely erratically, violating her lane on both sides. She got down to about 10 to 15 miles per hour below the speed limit. And normally, what I'll teach my teens all the way up to executive protection, high threat operations, if you have a threat, keep it in front of you because you can control that situation, right? If it's behind you, you can't steer and press the pedals for these people. However, when they go 10 to 15 miles per hour below the speed limit for a long period of time, at some point, it's just practical to pass them. So as I'm passing her, I look over, and she's got her pinkies wrapped around the bottom of the steering wheel, and she must be writing a novel on her iPhone because her thumbs are just going at it. And that's where her attention is on that iPhone, and that's why she's so erratic. Well, about an hour later, 45, 50 miles later on a completely different interstate, here she comes again, the exact same scenario, only this time she became really erratic, ran off the road one time, violated her lane so badly she almost hit another car, etc. Same exact thing, 15 miles per hour, below the speed limit. When I got up next to her this time, I kid you not, her left hand was on the steering wheel like this, with the back of her hand. That's what she was steering with, while her right hand was doing her nails. Downtime. She saw this as downtime. Now, what made this particular situation very interesting to me was her car had a complete wrap job for a major insurance company whose name I won't mention. However, I will say I found her driving very progressive. So we have this thing that we We think driving is downtime, and it's actually easy and doesn't require much of our attention, but it actually does. We need to pay 100% of our attention 100% of the time to stay engaged with what we are there to do, because it's chaos. A friend of mine has this really cool sticker plaque inside of his race car. I love it. It basically says, "Warning, this machine has no brain. Use of yours is required in its operation." So ladies and gentlemen, the self-driving car is not here yet. We can't put away our responsibility to the car itself. Other countries seem to get this right. We've fallen way, way down. There's a video behind me playing of an intersection in a country in South America. You may notice that there are no lane lines, there are no stop lines, there are no crosswalks for pedestrians, no stop lights, no stop signs, no nothing. There's cars coming from every direction, going in every direction. It's basically a free-for-all. There's pedestrians walking across with their small children and their pets, and everybody seems to be going across, and no one's hitting anything or anyone, and everybody's getting it done. You think anyone's eating a burger there? Think anybody's got their phone out texting while they're doing this? No. What are they doing differently from us? Well, number one, they've taken a preventative approach. They've taught people how to drive cooperatively, how not to be distracted, and avoid the crash instead of recover from it. As opposed to here, we take an intervention approach. Let us show you what to do when the crash starts to happen, right? Let us show you how you to bend over and, while you're in your car, because that's basically what we're leaving you with your education. So they seem to get it right. Can you imagine that intersection in the US? It would be the zombie apocalypse with a steaming pile of cars and bodies hanging out. It would be craziness, right? So, what can we do? Well, number one, we can take a different attitude about driving. We can start to look at driving as a serious pastime. In my day when I got my license, the only thing we had to distract us in the car was a radio with 2 big knobs, one on either side, and 5 manual push buttons. And maybe if you were lucky, you had a tachometer in your car. But that was it. Unless there was somebody else in your car to have a conversation with, you had to pay attention to driving because that was all there was to pay attention to. Today, the cars themselves are becoming their own worst enemy. You got pretty touch screens, you got all these fancy gizmos in the car that beg your attention to come back inside the car instead of where it should be, out on the road. You combine this with all the other gizmos that we have on our waist and everything else, iPads, iPhones, telephones, you name it, and we have all these things that beg for our attention. So we can change our attitude about driving. We can raise the bar on education. We can make it much more challenging to get your license. You might be asking yourself, what can I do specifically? Well, number one, I'll tell you what I tell my teens. Take your phone, put it on silent, not vibrate, silent, and put it where you cannot see it, in a console or a glove box. Because the little light that flashes on there, a study was recently done, the notification light, the urge to check what caused that notification light is actually stronger than that of a smoker for a cigarette. That's pretty crazy. So you want to put this where it doesn't tempt you to pick it up. You can get your seating position and your mirror positioning proper, because most people do not know how to do that. You can go look me up, Chuck Hawks on YouTube. I've got one video. There's tons of videos out there that show you how to set this up. You can change your mindset and focus on what's out in front of you. Play what if with yourself. What if my tire blows? What if that car runs that stop sign? What if the truck next to me decides my lane is theirs and no warning? What do I do? Keeps your mind engaged on what you're there to do.
All right. So just as a reminder, some of the universal values is life, right? We value our own lives. We value other people's lives. Another universal value is our future. We value the ability to basically work after whatever our future entails, whether this be to go to college, to start a career, start a family, travel, whatever our future looks like. We want to have the ability, the physical ability and the mental ability to be able to do that. Last, we value our finances. Okay, again, ability to make money and to provide for ourselves and our families. So what we do and the decisions we make always need to align with our value system. And then we know that we are doing the right thing, and that we are being courteous and respectful to all other people involved. All right, so let's dive into the IPDE process. So really what we're going to be talking about here is how do we manage risk with this process? So the what, the how, and the why to use the IPDE process. And our understanding of the IPDE process is going to be used in sessions after this, and it's going to be built upon for whatever we're talking about specifically in that session. But you have to have a framework to work upon before you can attend the other sessions. All right, so hopefully you're thinking about the IPD process, you just don't know that that's what it is yet. So let's answer this question. What is the IPDE process? So IPDE stands for identify, predict, decide, and execute. And it's an organized system. It's a thinking system of seeing, thinking, and responding. Okay, so it's a system that you're going to use constantly when you are driving. It's a mental task. It's the beginning of us to train your brain. And it keeps you focused, right? Keeps you thinking about the driving task so that there's no other distractions. Keeps you low risk. So it trains your brain on where to look, what to look for, and then how to assess that level of risk, all funneling down to the execution step. So let's look at each piece of the IPDE process individually. The first step is to identify. And what you're going to be identifying changes based off of the intersection you're at, what type of road you're driving on, and the weather conditions. You're going to use specific visual search patterns to identify. And you're using the patterns of change based on what road type and maneuver at that intersection you're about to do. It's the first and the most important step in the process. It kicks off the rest of the process and it starts the assessment of risk. So then what do we look for when we're in the identify step? So here's a list of exactly what you will be identifying when driving. And this takes practice. And we're going to cover all of these more extensively. But you're going to be identifying open and closed zones and changing zones. You're going to be identifying traffic controls. So these are red lights, green lights. Are you approaching a two-way stop, a four-way stop, an uncontrolled intersection? You're going to be identifying signs, signals, and roadway markings. You're going to be identifying other roadway users. So vehicles, pedestrians, motorcycles, bicyclists. What are they doing? And then lastly, you're going to be identifying roadway features. So this would be like a narrow bridge, icy road, pothole, the lane is ending. So basically, whenever you start to train, we want you to verbally state what you are identifying out loud. Okay, with us, we're going to ask you to do this so that you say, I'm approaching a red light. Okay, I'm approaching a two-way stop. I understand that this lane, the right lane is ending. I identify that this vehicle is making a lane change. Okay, because then we can help you move from identify then to predict. So predict is the next step. After you have made your identification, you're going to predict what is going to happen. You're going to use knowledge, judgment, and experience to help you make the most accurate prediction. Knowledge is going to come from this course, most of it. Judgment is going to be based off of your intuition and your decision-making skills. And your experience is going to be based off of your actual driving time behind the wheel. So this is why we say it's so important for you to do this course and then drive. So don't just drive the same route or the same time of day, but actually drive different routes, drive longer trips, shorter trips, in different weather, so that you're building your predictive ability under your experience. So what do we predict specifically after we have identified? Well, we're going to predict the actions of other roadway users. Are they changing direction? Where is the point of conflict? And what are the consequences of my actions? What are the consequences of their actions? Then from there, after you've predict, then we're going to move on to decide. So decide, you can either change or maintain your speed. You can change your direction. You can choose to communicate, or you can do a combination of all three of those. But basically, from your identify and then your predictive stage, you have to make a decision on what to do. After you've made that decision, you execute that decision. And really, the car can only do a few things. We can only change speed or control our speed and steer, or a combination of those, right? We can speed up, we can slow down, we can turn left, we can turn right. We can use our signal or our horn to communicate. So basically everything from the identify step has to funnel down into an execution. And that execution is then where you're either going to be low risk or high risk. All right, let's talk a little bit about zones. So like I said, there are 6 zones around your vehicle. And this diagram shows you where they are, okay? So the size of the zone is the width of a lane. And a zone can either be open, closed, or changing. And it's going to be changing based off of if there's going to be a vehicle that comes into that space or if that lane ends. Okay, I wanted to show you this image so you can get a good idea of where your central vision is compared to your peripheral vision. So your central vision, like I said, is forward, and your peripheral vision is in that 180 degrees. So when you're driving, it's really important that if any object, so any movement or light comes into your peripheral vision, that's going to clue you into then looking in that area and assessing it for risk. So like I just said, what clues us? So this is motion. So when you detect motion in or out of your peripheral vision or your fringe vision, so fringe vision is around your central vision. So for example, your rearview mirror is in your fringe vision. Then you're going to check that zone and assess its risk. So you see a vehicle that changes lanes into right directly behind you, right? That light or that movement is going to come into your rearview mirror. So that clues you into now checking your rearview mirror, checking that zone. What is that vehicle doing? Okay. And then light is really important as well, especially when you're driving at night. You see movement of light, it's going to clue you into looking into that area, assess risk. So then what is selective seeing? So selective seeing is identifying only those clues that help you assess risk, hazards, or points of conflict, or right-of-ways. Okay, so like I said, when you're driving, your head isn't just swiveling everywhere, right? Trying to take in all of the information all the time. That's mentally exhausting and that's physically exhausting. And that doesn't provide you the ability to see what you need to see soon so that you can react quick. If you learn exactly where to look and what to look for, depending on what intersection you're about to come up on, or what road type, or what maneuver you're about to do, either a right turn or a left turn, then you can see exactly at that intersection what you need to see at the right time. And that ultimately saves you reaction time. And reaction time, like I said, will save you the difference between a crash or no crash. So I'm going to pull up this video really quick. It's just of a short drive, and I'm going to talk to you about what zone control would look like using the IPDE process.
Around your blind corners. When you're turning right on red, remember that you're permitted, you're not required. So it's not something, even if the guy behind you is losing his mind,
We are sitting at a red light right now. He's about to turn
legally
right.
or for the test. Same thing goes with your tester can't
The light turns green.
think in his mind and grade you on
A
it.
few seconds
I
to
could-
notice it.
I think you should.
Driver
I can't grade you on what
he turns
I
into the
think
lane
you should
closest
do.
to him,
I
and
can
here
only
he
grade you on
starts
what
the
you do on
IPDE
the test, if that
process.
makes sense.
So I'm going to pause the video. So right here, what am I identifying? So I'm looking 15 seconds or more ahead of me. So I am looking at that signal light, and I am verbally stating out loud, I'm approaching a, and then I would say either green or red, yellow light. Next, what I'm identifying is oncoming vehicles. So as you can see, there is the oncoming vehicle, the white car. I am making sure that that vehicle is staying in their lane, on their side of the road. If that vehicle started to drift, that would be high risk. And then I would have to move quickly through the predictive, decide, execute steps.
Yeah. How many hours would you estimate you have behind the wheel so far?
Let's see.
So at about right here, we're approximately 3 seconds from going through that intersection. Again, I'm identifying, I'm coming up on a T intersection. The light is green. It is continuing to stay green. So at this point, I will go through the intersection, even if the light turns yellow. And then I'm searching for or identifying for any other roadway users at that intersection that would increase my risk. So what would increase my risk at this intersection? If there was a pedestrian that came out, if there was a vehicle turning in front of me, if there was a vehicle coming from the right that would be running the red light. Okay, so I'm thinking about all of those things prior to going through the intersection.
Like,
So as we continue to approach that intersection, we identify that there is a vehicle on our right that is approaching the intersection. So my eyes immediately go to that vehicle because of movement. And so then I'm now in the predictive stage. I have to predict, what is this vehicle going to do? Are they going to stop at this red light? Are they going to continue through the red light and pull in front of me? I'm taking in my intuition, my judgment, my knowledge, and my experience to make the best assessment about that vehicle.
during the semester.
Right here, before we're about to enter into the intersection, this vehicle has not stopped moving yet. So my best judgment is to slow down. Because if I do not see that that car is going to stop, then I need to make an evasive maneuver. And that evasive maneuver would be to slow down and move to the left lane.
I did some practice driving from home.
Okay.
Or to
As you can see or tell, if you can't, the instructor in this video pressed on the brake so that the student would better realize that they needed to be aware of that vehicle. As you can see, that vehicle did continue to slow down, so there was no evasive action that had to happen. However, if that prediction was different, so that that vehicle didn't, then we would move on to the decision to have an evasive maneuver, and then we would execute that. So now, since I'm through the intersection, next, what I'm going to be identifying is my next threat area. So my next threat area is oncoming traffic.
from Littleton. So
Additionally, hope you noticed, we just passed a speed limit sign. said the speed limit was 40 miles an hour. Okay. So when I'm going, the identify is, you know, all those things that we listed off: signs, signals, roadway markings, my zones, my risk, right? So my search pattern is forward, but I have to notice if there's signs, if there's signals in front of me, what other roadway users are doing. And I'm quickly going through that whole IPDE process.
It's a pretty good drive.
Yeah, maybe.
Definitely not doing the speed limit.
Maybe about like 12.
Don't speed up. Don't let those guys bait you.
Okay, so as you can see, this is a new driver. The speed limit on this road is 40. The student driver is now doing 47, which is speeding. And what happened was there was a vehicle that came into the left lane that passed him and was also speeding. And so because that car was going faster, the student naturally started to accelerate. This happens. It even happens with experienced drivers. So what you have to do is you have to glance down at your speedometer, realize how fast you're going, and make sure that you actually are under or at that speed limit and maintain your control. As you can see, the student slightly started to drift off into the right side of the road as well. So we had to correct coming back, and the instructor told him to slow down. It is a skill to bring in this IPDE process with zone control while maintaining drifting and speed. And so I just show this for an example. So what we're going to talk about next is general maintenance. And so I'm going to show a video of John explaining some general maintenance that we should all be doing on our vehicles.
We're going to talk about pre-checks and general maintenance today. So we're going to start with our pre-checks, and this is basically before you even get in the car and drive down the road, you want to do a quick little check of 4 different things, okay? So we got the 4 L's is what I like to call them, okay? So first one is lean, okay? Is your car leaning in any direction, okay? So just as we walk up to the car, we can get a good sense of, okay, is the car leaning to one side or the other, okay? If it's leaning to one side or the other, you might have a couple different issues, okay? 1, it could be your suspension. 2, it could be a flat tire, right? So do a quick glance right before you get there and decide, okay, is my car leaning to one side? If it is, go around and check every tire to make sure there's got plenty of air in them, okay? All right, second L is leaks, okay? So sometimes you have to get underneath and do a quick glance under your car. If you have a nice big jacked up truck, it's easy to see if something's leaking, right? So just do a quick check to make sure there's nothing leaking that wasn't there the night before when you parked the car, okay? So that's 2. We got leaks. License plate is number 3, okay? So in the state of Colorado, it's required that you have a rear license plate as well as a front license plate, okay? So, and it must be affixed to the front of the vehicle on the outside, not the inside, okay? Do not put it up on the dashboard or in the back window, okay? That does not suffice. If you get into a rollover accident and you have sheet metal flying around in your car, that's a bad thing, okay? So, leaks, license plate. Last one is your lights, okay? So we're gonna check all of our lights real quick. So with this, you do have to get in the car a little bit. So we'll hop in, we'll start. Don't have to necessarily start the car, but we're gonna get it going so that we don't run down the battery too bad. So we'll turn on our full headlights, and then we'll also turn on our hazard lights. So we'll kick those on. That way all 4 of your turn signals are on, and we can get a good sense of what's going on. Okay, we'll also turn on our brights because we can check that at the same time. So start at the back, come back here, make sure that your running lights are on, okay? All 4 running lights should be on, and both tail lights or both turn signals should be flashing at the same time, okay? If one of them is flashing really fast or you hear it inside, then you know that there's a bulb out somewhere and we gotta find it, okay? So, but everything looks good back here. We'll go up front, check the front real quick. All right, so your main headlights are on and your high beams are also on. Everything looks good. Turn signals look good. Perfect. All right, takes 5 seconds, guys. Just do it real quick. Do it often so that if you do have a light out, you can replace it and don't get a ticket for it. All right, cool. So that's your 4 L's. We'll go over them real quick one more time. Lean, okay? You might have a flat tire. Your suspension might be messed up, okay? Leaks, okay? Make sure there's nothing leaking from the bottom of your vehicle. License plate, make sure that's still on the car. And lights, good. All right, we'll move into general maintenance. Okay, so from here, there's a handful of fluids that when you take your car in to get serviced, they're gonna check all that, but there's a handful of them that you can do by yourself pretty easily. So what we'll do is we'll pop the hood. So come on over here and get up underneath the hood here. All right, good. A lot of new cars, if you kind of take a look here, a lot of the new cars, any cap that is yellow is something that you can check or add fluid to it, okay? So the big one here in Colorado, the first one I always check no matter what is my windshield wiper fluid, okay? So nice and easy. It's got the picture of the windshield right there, got the fluid, okay? Don't put the wrong fluid in the wrong place, okay? Look at the cap, make sure it's the right fluid that you're putting in there, okay? Real simple, pop it open, fill it up to the top, okay? So windshield wiper fluid is very essential here in Colorado, okay? Make sure you have it, especially in the wintertime, all right? Second is gonna be your coolant, okay? So right over here, another yellow cap, right? Oh, it's kind of dirty, but it is yellow and it says coolant right there, okay? There's a reservoir. This is what you wanna focus on and make sure that when you pop this open, that it's within the acceptable range. So there's a little reservoir right here and there's markings on the side. It's kind of hard to see, but there are markings on there that will tell you where your coolant is and if it needs coolant or not, okay? So we got windshield wiper fluid, coolant, all right? Next is transmission fluid, okay? So there's a couple different dipsticks on your vehicle. This one right here is your engine oil, okay? And then the transmission is usually hidden back in somewhere else, but where is it? Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, so it's hidden back right in there. All you'll do is you'll pull it out, and I'll show you with the engine oil here in just a second, but it's the same type of deal, okay? So we're looking for the dipstick like this to check our oil levels, okay? So in order to check your oil, you'll pull out the dipstick, make sure the car's off, first of all. If it's running, shut it off and give it a minute for all that oil to settle in the engine, okay? Then you're gonna pull the dipstick out like so. You're gonna wipe it completely clean first, just like that. And then we're gonna stick it right back in there to get a nice good reading on what we got, okay? So we'll pull it back out, boom. All right, and then what we're looking for is that the oil is in between this little dot and this little dot right here, okay? So if it's in between there, you're good. If it's over it, it's not great, but we just ran this car, so that's why it's going over a little bit. If it's way up here, then you have way too much oil, okay? You want it somewhere in between this bottom dot and before this little crease in the middle here, okay? So make sure, one, that you can see the fluid on there, and then two, get a sense of how clean the oil is, okay? So you can kind of see it on my finger, but this car just got an oil change and it's got nice, clean, amber colored oil on there, okay? If it's old and used, it's gonna be black, okay? You'll see it up on your rag here. It'll be really black and nasty. So if that's the case, change your oil. Okay, so how often do we change our oil? Some people will tell you every 3,000 miles or every 3 months, which is a pretty good general rule, okay? If you have synthetic oil, you can stretch that out a little longer. You can usually go to like 5,000 or 8,000 miles between oil changes. But if you do one thing to your vehicle to keep it maintained, oil is the number one thing you want to do, okay? Change your oil often, don't let it get, okay? You do that and your car will last a long time, okay? Yes, there's other things you have to deal with the car, but if you can stretch it out, try not to stretch out the oil, okay? Always be on top of your oil changes, okay? So every 3,000 to 5,000 miles, okay? All right? So we got windshield wiper fluid, we got coolant, we got engine oil, we got transmission oil, which we're not gonna pull out because it's hidden back over there. But again, it's the same thing. You pull the dipstick out, wipe it clean, throw it back in there, and get a good reading, okay? There's that. And then our last one is our brake fluid, okay? So another yellow cap over here. The thing about the brake fluid is typically you don't have to add too much to this. Again, it has a little reservoir right here that will tell you if you need to add fluid to it. Okay, if it gets below that add line, then you want to add a little fluid to it. But most brake systems, they're closed systems. So unless you have a leak somewhere, that fluid should stay there and it shouldn't wear out very often. Eventually, I think it's every like, I don't know, 50,000 miles, you're gonna want to do a brake fluid flush. They'll flush all that fluid out. But just as long as you maintain that level in your reservoir. Okay, so that's it. Quick recap. You got 4 basic fluids under the hood that you want to check, that you can check periodically by yourself without taking it to the shop. Okay, windshield wiper fluid, coolant, engine oil, tranny oil, and brake fluid. So 5. All right, cool. All right, so one other thing that we're going to look at is our tires. Okay, so tire tread depth is what we're looking at. Okay, so what you want is at least 2 30-seconds of an inch. Okay, so a lot of people are like, well, what's that, right? How do you judge that? Okay, some people will say you can use a penny. I don't really like to use the penny. I just get a little tread depth gauge. Okay, you can pick one up at AutoZone or wherever, O'Reilly's, and you just stick it right on the tread depth, and it will gauge how much tread is left on your tire. Okay, these tires are fairly new. They only got about 30,000 miles on them. They got nice thick depth of tread. Okay, when I check it, I usually just use my finger. I'll stick my finger in there, and if it pinches my finger down, there's lots of tread there. Okay, if this is completely worn out, right, and it's nice and bald and there's no tread on here, you're definitely going to want to get your tires replaced. Okay, in the state of Colorado, during the winter time, if you go up into the mountains, so you skiers, snowboarders, they just enacted a new law that says you have to have tread depth on your tires if you go up into the mountains when it's snowing. Okay, a lot of people try to skip through it and not replace their tires, but you can actually get a ticket for not having enough tread on your tires now in Colorado, which makes sense. People get stuck on the highway all the time because they don't have any tread on their tires. So if you get winter tires, those are good. They're a different compound and they stick to the road a lot better. So, but you don't want to use those in the summertime because you just burn through them really quickly. So if you do get winter tires, just put them on during the winter and swap them out come springtime. So, all right, I think that's about it. Oh yeah, so the tire pressure is the other thing, right? So we have tread depth, but we also have tire pressure. So you can get a good view just by looking at the tire. If this is what I look at right here. So if it's a nice full tire, you'll have a little bit of bulge here from the weight, but this is good, okay? If this starts to pinch out and get really close to the ground, you'll see it, then you want to throw some air in your tire, okay? This is another gauge that I'll get that I keep in my backpack. It's a quick little tire gauge. You unscrew your cap right here and push it on there, and it gives you the tire pressure, okay? Most tires are somewhere between 32 and 40 pounds per square inch, okay? Every single tire is written on here. It's really tiny in here and you can't see it, but every tire will tell you right on the side right here what the minimum pressure is and the maximum pressure. So this one's right down here, but max pressure is 44 PSI. So ideally, you want to be below that. You know, you don't want to run them really high and you don't want to run them really low. So 38 is usually about a good pressure here in Colorado. Again, in this fall and the springtime, we have huge fluctuations of temperature. Okay, so that's gonna affect your tire pressure. So if it drops really low at night, in the morning, just do a quick glance in your pre-check, make sure your tire pressure didn't go down really low. And if you have to, stop by the gas station, throw some air in it real quick, and make sure you have good tire pressure. All right. I think that's about it. And cool.
Getting the right car insurance is a bit more involved than finding the lowest price. It's important that you get the right coverage for your situation. And first, you need to understand what's available. There are 5 main categories or types of auto insurance coverage. Let's go through them. Liability coverage is the most common because almost every state requires you to carry some minimum amount in order to drive legally. Liability coverage pays for the damage you cause in an accident when you are at fault. Specifically, liability coverage will pay for bodily injuries and property damage of others. Remember that liability insurance does not cover any of your damages. It protects others from damage you cause and also protects you financially. Without it, you could be on the hook for the entire cost of an accident out of pocket. Collision coverage is the second most common type of car insurance coverage. It will pay for damages to your car from an accident, even if you were at fault. As the name implies, collision coverage pays for damage incurred when you're driving and collide with another object. Note, losses from non-crash stuff like theft or weather damage are not covered by your collision insurance. For those things, you'll need something called comprehensive coverage. Comprehensive coverage kicks in to cover losses that are totally out of your control. Like collision coverage, comprehensive coverage is optional. It will protect you from losses due to fire, vandalism, theft, hitting an animal, or damage caused by certain natural disasters. But comprehensive coverage won't cover everything. For example, most policies will not cover damage due to freezing, even though it's weather-related. Comprehensive coverage usually doesn't cover breakdowns either. You should find out what is excluded before purchasing. Comprehensive coverage is often more attractive to drivers of a new or expensive vehicle. Some lenders may even require comprehensive coverage as a condition of financing your vehicle. To recap, we've gone over liability insurance, which covers damage you do to others, collision insurance, which covers crash-related damages to your car, and comprehensive insurance, which covers certain unpredictable damages to your car. But what about injuries suffered by you or your passengers? If you weren't at fault, the other driver's liability coverage should pay for your damages, but you can purchase your own medical coverage for additional protection. Medical coverage is usually optional, but certain no-fault states will require you to buy a form of it called personal injury protection. Personal injury protection is also known as no-fault insurance because, like medical coverage, it will pay the costs of treating your injuries regardless of who was at fault in an accident. Finally, uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage will protect you against the risk of being hit by an uninsured or underinsured driver. It's estimated that almost 15% of American drivers do not carry the legal minimum amount of car insurance as required by their state. If you are hit by one of these people, you won't be able to collect from a liability policy they don't have. Uninsured motorist coverage will pay for your medical expenses and lost wages. Many states now require uninsured motorist coverage for bodily injury, but you might have the option to purchase it for property damage as well. Underinsured coverage kicks in when you're hit and your damages and expenses exceed the limits of the at-fault driver's liability coverage. When you're shopping for an auto insurance policy, make sure you know exactly what you're getting and why. Find out what is covered, what is excluded, what you need to stay legal, and what you need to stay protected financially.
Okay, so in case you didn't get all of those written down in your notes right away, I would like to cover them right here on this slide to give you a little bit of time to catch up. So basically there are 5 types of insurance: liability, collision, comprehensive, personal injury protection, and uninsured or underinsured motorist. That's one category. So for liability insurance, this is required by every state, okay? There's a certain amount that is required. It pays for the damages you cause when you are at fault in an accident, specifically bodily injuries and property damage of others. It does not cover any of your damages, so any damages to your vehicle, your body, or your property. Then there is collision insurance. So this is going to pay for the damages to your car, even if you were at fault. Okay, and then there's comprehensive insurance. And this is going to pay for damages that are out of your control, okay, such as wind, hail, theft, natural disasters. Most banks, whoever has financed your loan, so most banks require that if you have a loan with them that's for a vehicle, you must have liability, collision, and comprehensive insurance. Until that car is paid off, you have to legally hold comprehensive insurance. Okay, next is personal injury protection. This is required in states that are classified as no fault states. And we're going to cover what Colorado is in just a minute. But this is going to cover the cost of treating your injuries and your passengers' injuries, regardless of who is at fault. And then the last one is uninsured motorist and underinsured motorist. So this is going to protect you and pay for damages if you are hit by an uninsured or underinsured driver. So just as the video stated, almost 15% of people do not carry the legal amount of insurance. So what this means is out of 100 cars that you pass, or that pass you, 15 of them are underinsured or not insured at all. And so if you get involved in an accident with them, they're not going to have any way to pay for that accident. You can sue them civilly, but that's a long haul. And it doesn't mean that you have money right away to pay for your vehicle or your bodily injuries or the bodily injuries of your passengers. So just some additional questions. I want you to understand, what are 5 common factors that insurance companies use to determine premiums for teens? Okay, so they look at age. If you are a brand new driver, age 16, compared to a driver who's 25, the crash statistics differ. So if you're younger, your premiums are going to be higher. They're going to look at completion of driver's ed. So did you complete full comprehensive driver's education? And in Colorado, what that includes is a 30-hour course. So that's this course. And a minimum of 6 hours behind the wheel training with a professional school, in combination with your grades, so a 3.0 or better. So if you have that, then you get a discount, and it's a pretty hefty discount on your insurance premiums. So just another plug for taking driver's education, and another way that you can let your peers know that driver's education is really important. One, you're getting a ton of information, a ton of knowledge that you're going to use that can potentially save your life. That matters, but you're also getting a discount on insurance. And so it's another way to protect your financial future. Basically, driver's education is an investment because you earn back all of that money that you paid for in driver's ed in less than 2 months of being licensed, just in insurance premiums alone. Then they're going to look at the type of vehicle. So what type of vehicle are you driving, and what are the crash statistics around that vehicle specifically? Just think, if you're driving mom's minivan or you're driving dad's sports car, then which car typically is in the majority of accidents? It's the sports car. So then that's going to increase your premiums. They're going to look at past offenses. So if you're a brand new driver, obviously you don't have any. They're going to look at the past offenses of mom and dad, because that's an indicator of how you will drive. So past crashes and tickets. Okay, just a few more additional questions. So what is the difference between an at fault and a no fault state? So basically an at fault state means that somebody will be deemed at fault. They will be responsible to pay for all of the damages caused to their own personal belongings, car, people, and also to whoever else that they damaged. If you are a no fault state, then that means that your insurance company basically takes care of you, and the other party's insurance company takes care of them. Nobody is necessarily deemed at fault. I personally do not like this because I believe that there are no accidents, there are crashes, and they are preventable. And the person is at fault. Somebody is at fault for causing that crash. And so I think with that comes consequences. And part of those consequences are financial consequences. And that's what can change somebody's behavior later on. So thankfully, Colorado is an at-fault state. So if you are involved in a crash with somebody in Colorado, the police officer, as long as you've called them to report the crash, they will come and they will take a report of what has happened and they will deem who is at fault. That's really important for the insurance company because then the insurance company can say, hey, this third party police officer has said this party is at fault, so you are financially liable for this crash. There are some other states that are not. California is one. They are a no fault state. So it's important to know that if you're driving in those other states, make sure that you understand what's going to happen if you're involved in a crash and what that means for you financially. So let's talk about what the minimum liability insurance is in Colorado and what those values mean. So liability insurance is required in every state, and there's certain minimums that are set. In Colorado, the minimum liability coverage is $25,000 for bodily injury, $50,000 for total bodily injury per accident, and $15,000 for property damage. So I can tell you that that amount is very low. Statistically speaking, most crashes take over $20,000. So that's over. So you already reach a lot of your maximums in this policy. And then once that policy money is used, there's nothing else. It's up to you to come up with the remainder. So your best thing is to look at your parents' insurance and talk to them, why do they choose that insurance, and then talk to your insurance specialist because they're going to have a lot of information that can help you understand where you should set your policy and how that affects your premium and your deductible.